Hey,
All
Kate,
right.
we're gonna get started in a second, but I'm going to tease this. Are you ready? I'm teasing this.
Uh-oh.
To the
Let's hear
audience,
it.
I am going to tease you that I am going to make a personal confession during this particular webinar about major failure products. I'm going to make a personal confession. So stick
Oh,
around and you'll hear me confess.
that's a good teaser. I like
It's
it.
startling. It'll startling. It's startling.
Like it. All right, North Dakota. Okay, well, let's get going. We are 2 minutes past the hour. So whatever hour it is in your neck of the woods, thank you all for spending your time with us this morning. This is a really an interesting and a fun webinar to do today. So why do products fail? We love talking about this, learning from it, and hopefully learning how not to do this in our own roles as product managers or product leaders. Ken, you want to go ahead and move to the next slide? I believe maybe one more even. There we go. All right, so today in our webinar, we're really going to talk about why certain products have failed, why others could thrive, and hopefully how we can take some tips to make ours be on the latter side of those two options. It's a question that often leads us perplexed, so wondering how such seemingly promising ideas can go wrong. But we've got a very well-esteemed expert here, Ken Feehan. He's going to give us a confession, apparently, as well as cover some of the other more famous products that have not done so well. He's also going to go into some of the common pitfalls and then how to combat that. We also have some very exciting new products coming out of the 280 group that we're going to tease a little bit at the end of the webinar. So make sure you stay put for that. And yeah, I'm going to turn it to Ken to give himself his own little introduction here, and then we'll go ahead and dive in.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those of you who've come to the webinar. I look forward to having a fun hour. Talking about failed products is always interesting. You learn more from failures, in my opinion, than sometimes you learn from successes. My name is Ken Feehan. I am the VP of Product at the 280 Group. I've been at the 280 Group for 5 or 6 years now. I've been associated. I've known about the company for many decades, but been full-time committed for 5 or 6 years. My background is 25 plus years of doing product management, much of it in California and in Silicon Valley. Learned how to do product management at Apple. Learned how to do Agile at Intuit, and then I worked at an incredible number of unsuccessful startups and a couple of successful startups. I love the work I do at the 280 Group. I spend a little bit of time with clients and a lot of time rebuilding some interesting products in order to help take product management forward. See what's happening here, and I'm pleased to be here. Kate, you're a product manager at a company that specializes in product management. What's that like?
Yes, I think it was yesterday someone said you have to have a little bit of a screw loose to be a product manager at the product management company.
Yeah,
So I'll take
exactly.
that as a compliment. I'll just run with it. But yes, I am a product manager here at the 280 Group, and it's been a thrill. I have our built-in SMEs, and we get to learn from all kinds of different companies and different industries and sizes. So I've had a blast here, and yeah, it's a challenge that I am thrilled to have. So, all right, let's go keep on going. A little bit about the 280 Group. Who we are. We're outcome driven product partner. We'd love to partner with you and your company on how to deliver outcomes that matter. So not necessarily just churning out some vanity metrics, but how to actually get outcomes that you and your business will succeed with. All right. So just a little housekeeping here. Please do ask questions as we have in our chat here. We see where some folks are from, which we always love to do. Please ask questions in the chat or give us some little anecdotes if you have some experiences of your own. We also have the Q&A open. It's on the bottom, I believe, of your Zoom screen. You're welcome to type in questions there for the panelists to view and answer, either typing through that Q&A panel, or we might bring it up and discuss it during our Q&A breaks. So please do. We want to have kind of a discussion here. We don't want to just be talking at you the whole time. So we'd love to hear your experiences and questions as we go. And then obviously we want you to follow us. Come check out all the fun things we're doing. We have so many exciting releases coming down the pipeline, and we want you guys to be a part of it. So follow us on LinkedIn, reach out and, follow Ken and myself, or connect, and we'd love to do that with you. So, all right, let's dive in. Let's start with learning from failure. So Ken, on to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kate. Terrific. So we're going to work through this particular process. First of all, we're going to kind of do a Hall of Fame failed products. Some of them are very commonly talked about as failed products. So we're going to do Google Glasses. Everybody always talks about Google Glass. But we'll also do one or two that you probably haven't heard of before. Next up is we're going to talk about common themes. Why do products fail? What's the role of the product manager when you see a product failure coming your way? Next up, we'll talk about reasons why they fail, how to avoid these pitfalls is the proactive. This is the part where we actually begin to get product managers defending. We're working through to say, hey, I'm identifying that we're at risk of potentially failing. What can I do about this today? And how can I make a difference? And then we'll open it up for Q&A. This is a poll. Kate, back to you.
Awesome. All right, let me go ahead and open this first one up. As Ken mentioned, we do have a number of failed products that you might have heard of, and a couple that maybe you haven't. So go ahead and give us a vote. Maybe what's your favorite? I don't know if that means the worst or the best famous product failure, but yeah, we've got Google Glass, Segway, Theranos, CNN Plus, or maybe something else that you've thought of, and we'd love for you to chat it if you have something in mind for that other category. All right, let's see. We've got 61% of you guys have answered. Keep them coming. I'll do a countdown once I see it starting to slow. All right.
We're going to talk about all of these, just FYI.
Oh, yes. 3, 2. All right, 1. I'm going to broadcast so you guys can see. I don't know, Ken, not totally surprising given the Google Glass popularity. What do you think?
It's interesting. CNN Plus has been such a 2023 kind of failure. I would have thought it would have rated higher, but we'll talk about it. That makes perfect sense. Google Glass has to be potentially the most iconic product failure. Although I don't know that it's a product failure, but we will talk about that. That's fantastic. Thank you, Kate. Thanks everybody for taking the survey. There will be another survey. There will be another poll in this. Okay, so super. So let's get into some of the content here. Failed products, and most importantly, this isn't just failed product porn. This is actually how can PMs learn from our failure so that we can potentially keep them from doing it. So Google Glass is potentially the example. This example is now over 10 years old. Google spent a year promoting this particular headset and technology and made it work through. It's called Google Glass. For those of you that may not have been around for that time, we have a lot of product managers new to the area. They had a little video screen in here, and it monitored your audio, and you could ask for directions, and it would give you directions on the screen. You walked around looking like you were wearing half a pair of glasses. There was a camera facing forward. Everything you saw was recorded. They had a computer. They had an internet connection inside of these headsets, and they were trying to bring the internet to you as you existed in the real world. The product, as we know, did not meet Google's expectations. Google expected to sell hundreds of thousands and millions of these things in this particular time frame, but they ran into a series of issues. The biggest issue is the lack of privacy, the ability to capture video of people out in everyday sessions, people in the restroom with you, people at a restaurant with you, people working out in the gym. There was just simply a perceived lack of appropriateness of having a camera on all the time that was really putting this out here. But Google learned an incredible amount, and over time, I think we will see very clearly that concepts that were initiated in Google Glasses will become mainstream. And I'm pretty convinced that actually forward-facing cameras will become pretty standardized in the near future. I think that level will go away too. So this is a failed product, but I think that this is a product, and we'll talk about why this particularly failed, but I think this failed because it was too early, not because it was potentially the wrong idea here. So Google Glass, classic example of a failed product, lots and lots of money here. Next up is learning from failures. There was this product is over 20 years old. This happened just around the turn of the century. The Segway was about to revolutionize urban transportation. They had a quote from Steve Jobs that said this product is going to obsolete cars in urban areas. And I don't think Steve ever gave out quotes to other people. I was shocked that he saw that he did this. It was a two-wheel self-balanced transportation device that allowed you to quickly move around. This product failed spectacularly. It had expectations of having impact where we would all own one eventually, and eventually this became a product for mall cops to get from one side of the mall to the other. Spectacular product failure. We'll talk a little bit about why, but the Segway had millions, probably billions of dollars of venture capital behind it. It had an inspirational leader, and it had an incredible amount of opportunity in the marketplace, yet it didn't go anywhere. It like I said, it eventually became the Bart Cop kind of potential situations here. Here is a product that I put into failed products that I don't see show up in a lot of conversations here. From a product management point of view, there is something to learn from the Theranos blood system here. And since this is such a topical, I mean, there's even a Netflix series upon Theranos, that it's a very interesting point of view to study this from the point of view of what's happening here. Here was a medical device which was supposed to revolutionize how we get information about our health based upon what was happening with this. They were supposed to take a small pinprick of blood from us, put it into this particular system, and then get a comprehensive overview of what you would normally receive from a blood test, which required vials of blood in order to be able to do cholesterol levels, heart disease, DNA situations. They wanted to do it all with this particular situation. And here was a company that literally spent billions and billions of dollars, raised billions of dollars in revenue, and spent it. And for all intents and purposes, the study is that the product never worked. And this one had significant repercussions. When the Segway doesn't work, people don't buy the Segway. But Theranos actually got to the point where they were providing reports based upon your health of your blood, and telling you whether you were prone to a particular type of cancer or not to have that particular type of cancer. And they weren't actually giving accurate results. So if you think about all the product failures in here, I would say this one wasted the most amount of money. And then the second thing is that this one had a negative impact upon some people's health. So Theranos is interesting. Again, we're going to revisit and talk to some of these things about why they failed here. But I did want to push this out because I don't see it on many reports yet. A lot of lessons to be learned from there. The newbie for me, the one that I like to talk about for the first time in 2023 is the failure of a streaming service, a gigantic streaming service that had been invested in billions of dollars, called CNN Plus. CNN Plus is a streaming service. It was meant to be a complement to their broadcast news network, and it was meant to be a streaming service like Disney and HBO Max and other streaming services that you would subscribe to and that you would get anywhere on the go. And this particular product was surprising because they told us that they were building it for a year, and then it was on the marketplace for about 2 weeks, and then they yanked it down. Incredible failure on this particular part to see what's happening with CNN Plus. CNN Plus is sort of the repercussions of, excuse me, sort of the outcome of our rush to streaming services. Streaming is a new business. Netflix ran into it, Amazon ran into it, Apple ran into it, Disney ran into it. And at some particular point, it was the wild, wild west. It was how much market share can you grab? And the idea here with CNN Plus is they probably went into it thinking that this was a gold mine. It did not apply many product management critical eyes for this. What's the value to the customer? How much are we charging it? We'll talk about this later, but CNN Plus, incredible failure, and a very big cost sink for CNN and the Time Warner organization behind it. This is a classic failed product. You'll see this in our class at the 280 group. We talk about this one classically, and you'll see it on failed products. But here's a perfect thing. As a junior product manager, I can imagine sitting in my cube, and all of a sudden, the VP of sales comes up and it's like, "Hey, Ken, you're the product manager of Lip Balm. People love Lip Balm. You know what else they love, Ken? They also love Cheetos." And so suddenly that product manager, through no research, no feedback, is just simply responding to a leader at the particular company who put two things together that don't belong. together, and then suddenly someone shipped out lip balm that tastes like Cheetos. And this product did not stick around in the marketplace for very long. And a poor product manager probably had a miserable time trying to bring this out to product. But this is a failed product. We'll talk about why in a potentially couple of minutes. Anybody, if you've ever potentially tasted or used Cheetos flavored lip balm, I'm looking for a person who might have some experience by that. Cheetos didn't fail. Cheetos flavored lip balm fails. Just FYI, they did bring it to marketplace. So that's it. And then here's my last product. Maybe I'll do the confession later. There was a product that Apple Computer put together in the early 90s, and it was called the Apple Basic Color Monitor. And this particular product had a profound impact upon Apple at the time. Apple had a bad quarter because this particular product shipped and didn't do well in the particular marketplace. Apple Computer makes lemon products also, and this happens to be one of them. Okay, I'll do the confession now. This webinar is about failed products, and I've handled many products, including probably about 15 products at Apple. And during the webinar, I said, gee, what was the worst product I ever shipped? And this product came to mind. And I was looking for a picture of it on the website, so I typed in the name of it. It's called the Apple Basic Color Monitor. Even the name is terrible of this particular product. And I typed it into it. And the only listing I got for the Apple Basic Color Monitor was a blog post that said that this particular product is the worst product that Apple Computer ever shipped. And Apple shipped some turkeys in their particular lifetime, but someone proposed that a product that I was the product manager for early in my career was potentially the worst product at Apple. And we'll talk about why this particular product here, but this was a complete invention of the sales team. The sales team wanted a cheaper, less expensive monitor. And so we were tasked to go out and find a cheaper, less customized monitor from Apple Computer. And no one did a second of thinking about it. It was just an exercise in order to copy what everybody else was doing. And it was a terrible idea. And it actually cost Apple Computer money on Wall Street. So we had a bad quarter because of this particular monitor. And it was mine. I was the product manager for it. I just simply was assigned this particular task. I had go-to-market documents to fill out. I had names to apply for. I had all the product management tasks. I didn't have much control about this, but I worked on the product that is potentially the worst product that Apple Computer. I was the product manager for potentially the worst product that Apple ever shipped. That's my confession. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that one. And all ribbing is welcome. Again, how can you be at work in this if you ship the worst product ever? Let's talk about some common themes here. What can product managers do when they see a terrible product coming your particular way? Sometimes a product manager can make a difference on some of these things. Sometimes a product manager can be wise and influence their way out of the situation. Sometimes they have to go with the flow. But let's go ahead and talk about these things. Some products are above the pay grade for everyday product managers. That is true. Probably the Apple Basic Monitor that we're talking about was decided at a level other than mine. But I think the Google Glasses and Theranoses and the Apple Basic Color Monitor are above the pay grade. But man, there's 100 things that a product manager can do in order to avoid being the product manager of a failed particular product. And that's what we're going to talk about as we go through here. Let's go ahead and talk into some of these things. 7 reasons why products fail. First reason is the product doesn't solve the right problem. I have lots of situations where a salesperson comes up to me or the CEO went out to lunch with a major customer, and they agreed that we were supposed to build a new feature on this particular product. And in light of the fact that a major customer said it was really important, the product will get developed. We'll spend 3 or 4 months on it. We'll ship it, and then nobody buys it. And the reason is because it doesn't solve a customer problem. It doesn't have value to the customer. It's easy for sometimes for a partner or a salesperson to recite what next feature should be, but if that feature doesn't provide value, it doesn't make the product more valuable, it doesn't make things easier to use, then that particularly is a product fail. So if you are looking at a product as a product manager, can you articulate the specific problem that it solves to a target customer, and can you articulate that? If you can't do those things, then potentially your failed product is on its way. And you too will have a confession in a future webinar about being a product manager of a product that didn't go anywhere. If you're unsure about how to potentially figure out if this product solves the right problem, I ask you to do things like, develop personas. Who's the user persona? Tell me about the user persona and what problems they would like you to hire to do this. Who's the buyer persona for this particular product? If it's a B2B product, those personas are usually two different people. The user is a person who uses the product every day, and the buyer is someone who's got some budget, who's got to make two these things. In order to make sure the problem solves the right problem, develop personas and then tell me how this particular issue fits. Next up is, I know lots of product managers that follow something that's in our DNA, which is to focus upon the solution. All too often, product managers will fall in love with the fact that, oops, I know what the customer wants. I want to talk about what color it should be and how many buttons it should be and exactly how that works. And I want to make it happy on a mobile phone. We all, as product managers, have DNA. We want to work closely with engineers and designers and build a solution. But I propose that the place where product managers can be most influential, can make the most amount of impact, can actually have the most influence over the product, is not by competing with smart engineers and user interface people on what the solution should look like. I propose that the product manager needs to focus upon what the customer problem is and articulate the who has this particular problem and what problem that they have, and then inspire the rest of the team to potentially focus on building what the best solution is. We as product managers are intended to inspire teams with who the customers are and what their problems are, and then let the engineering team deal with some of the solution sides. I all too often find product managers not worrying about the solutions and just simply living in a world, not worrying about articulating the problem, but instead spending way too much time worrying about the solution. So what's the problem and who it is that you're going to work from? Last opportunity to figure this out is prototype the solution. And if you're not quite sure the product solves the particular problem, prototype. Prototype sounds like a made-up word. It's not technically a made-up word. A prototype is a prototype that's not built yet. Usually a prototype is articulated as like a 6-panel cartoon where you've got the character establishing the product, the problem, stating what the problem is, and then looking for a particular solutions. If you can potentially take a 6-panel cartoon with stick figures on it about how your solution might work to customers, you're going to learn very, very quickly to see what's going on here. By the way, the courses that the 280 group teaches goes over identifying the problem, developing personas, and of course, prototyping. Those are all standard things that we potentially do in class. Make sure that your product solves the right problem by articulating these things. Another reason that products frequently fail is that they pick the wrong market. We have two markets in front of us. One is the old steady marketplace, which is growing slowly, but we're really comfortable with it. The next market that potentially we're intrigued by is a new marketplace with new customers, and all the growth for revenue is going to come from the new marketplace. As a product manager, make sure that you're focused upon the needs of the particular market that you want to excite. Don't pick the wrong marketplace. Don't pick the wrong market, excuse me, not marketplace. Do market segmentation. Understand what market segments you're going to go after. I like to teach, and I like to work with people on my team that says, "Hey, this fall we're going to be focused upon the blue marketplace, and in the winter we're going to focus upon the yellow marketplace." Make sure that we develop the products and the go-to-market necessary to win those you do those particular situations. When we picked wrong markets in the past, I find that generally speaking, we didn't really go out and get a chance to speak to target customers about what their needs were. There's a technique in product management called empathy interviews. We encourage people who are trying to figure out how to resolve issues about market requirements and what we need to do in order to do empathy interviews. So it's just a quick little technique. You can look it up in YouTube or come to our class. But doing empathy interviews means that you become empathetic with the customers. You ask them questions, you learn what their problems are, and you figure out what would delight them. Picking the wrong marketplace. Lastly, this is the really, really important one, is be critical and do an evaluation of what the competition offers in your particular place. It's really important to do a competitive analysis. The sales team wants you to do a competitive analysis that focuses upon how our product is better than the competition. There's room in the world for that competitive analysis. How do we beat the competition? The sales team needs that. That's no problem. But I teach that product managers also need to do a separate competitive analysis about what is the value of the other product compared to ours. That's the internal competitive analysis, and that's meant to be the truth teller. The one for sales is meant to really stretch you in the particular direction of how we win, how we sell against those people. Those are two different competitive analysis I always offer too. From the people who work with me, next up is I've worked with a lot of companies and a lot of product managers and a lot of people who work for me who introduce products that fail because the product is too expensive or it provides too little value for the target customer that we're going after. The way that we deal with this particular situation is we perform and deliver a comprehensive competitive analysis similar to what we did last time. We prototype this, we go to users, we say, if we build something that looks like this, and we sell it for this particular amount, is that something that you would be interested in paying for? And then lastly, we want to make sure that we develop a solution to an actual customer problem and not something that's kind of a vanity metric feature here. Developing products that are too expensive or provide very little value results in a lot of work that doesn't have a return on investment here. So we want to make sure that we focus upon a product that provides the right value to customers and that is too expensive. Don't ship a product that has this. This is a classic reason why products fail, and that is that your brand can't support the product. The Cheeto flavored lip balm is sort of this particular one here. Your brand really can't extend over to that. You're about healthy, and you're about lip balms, and you're about soft lips. What does that have to do with cheese? But to do this, classic example of your brand can't support this. An example of your brand can't support this is a product called the VW Phaeton. The VW Phaeton was a $120,000 Volkswagen sedan that shipped about 15 years ago. Phenomenal car, technically superior, comparable to most Mercedes-Benz class in this particular situation. But the problem with the Phaeton wasn't the technology of the car. The problem was that when they went in to get it serviced, they were sitting next to people who had bought Volkswagen Beetles for $19.99. And the people who spent 10 times that much money on the car felt that they deserved more service and support. So Volkswagen could build a superior car, but they didn't provide the environment which was competitive with Mercedes and Audi and, believe it or not, Rolls-Royce in order to potentially be deliberate. So the VW Phaeton was an example of a brand that stretched out too far, built a car that was technically superior, but they did not delight their customers because of customer service and support issues. A company that gets brand perfectly, in my mind, is Toyota. Toyota has a line of cars under the Toyota brand, which are inexpensive family cars made of superior quality and are terrific. The Camry, the RAV4, high volume cars, satisfy lots of customers, delight their customers, that's fine. But when they looked at the luxury marketplace, they decided to potentially establish a second brand to do that. And so hence the world, or at least North America and some of Europe, has the Lexus brand. Similar cars to what Toyota sells, but generally speaking, wrapped up, packaged more nicely, a couple of extra features, and done through a completely different channel. So make sure that your brand can support this. If you want to launch a low-cost version of your particular product, a secondary market from that, considering a branding strategy similar to what Toyota and Lexus does. Okay, this one I got added last night because I was thinking about it so much. The Apple Basic Color Monitor is a classic example of the emperor has no clothes. We didn't know how to build this product. Some executives said, hey, we should build a really inexpensive color monitor that's similar to what people get when they buy Dell. And from that moment, everything was downhill. The marketing people said, oh, okay, well, they think it's a great idea. Let's go ahead and do it. And the salespeople said, oh, they think it's a great idea. Let's go do it. The product manager, hey, the VP of sales thinks this is a great idea. Let's go ahead and do this. And then suddenly there was just all of this crazy momentum around this particular product, and nobody had thought it through. Nobody had thought what customer expectations were. Nobody had done any customer research from this particular situation. This product was rolling at 60 miles an hour down the hill, developing all of this momentum. And the fact was the market didn't ask for this product. This idea came out of a staff meeting, came out of an issue where we were evaluating our own needs, not the customer needs in this particular situations. I wish there were a couple of times in life where I would have said, hey, let's talk about this. Are we working on a project where the emperor has no clothes? We're doing this, we don't understand why. So yeah, you have a name for it. The emperor has no clothes. Another reason why products failed is you find yourself late to market. You know, you're number one in the marketplace, and your number two supplier suddenly introduces this significant new feature and kind of catches you off guard. And they're in the marketplace talking about how they're innovating and how they're being experienced. You react and you take 6 months to build this, and 6 months after they introduce the new particular feature, you come out with a product that's just the same as theirs. They have a 6 months advantage over you. They've been talking about how they innovate. Customers see your reaction to what's going on here, and it's not a standout feature. It's just an everyday feature. And then suddenly they're picking up market share at your particular expense. If you find yourself late to marketplace, if you find yourself in that situations where your competitor innovated in front of you, and you have some catching up to do, as a product manager, be wary of just simply matching them feature for feature. You've got to find a way to take an extra month or to figure out some way in order to do something in order to make you stand out. Because once they establish that they're the innovator, once they establish that they are the company where things happen first, you're gonna have to figure out a way to take that back. And salespeople don't like selling products that are just the same as the competition. So don't build products that are just the same as the particular competition. Of the issues that we talked about, Emperor has no clothes, does your brand support this one? All of those things are kind of big deals for product managers. It's hard to stop some of those products that have so much momentum. But I want you to try before they happen. But the one thing that product managers can participate in, the one place where product managers can make a difference is actually working to make sure that the product that you do develop gets the correct support from the product marketing team, from the sales team, from the marketing team at your particular company. I've seen a lot of products fail because the development team loved them. They did the right research. Customers seem to want them. But when they reached the intro day, the sales team said, not that exciting to me. The marketing team said, oh, I can fit you into a webinar in a week. There wasn't any momentum behind the situations. The sales team wasn't incented to sell it. The sales team was trying to make sales, but they were trying to sell the easy things, and your product came on board late, and it's not necessarily easy to sell. Your product doesn't have a customer reputation. Your company doesn't have a success story. And so the sales team waits for the other people to start selling it, and they sell the easy products. Now, as a product manager, we can do things about poor go-to-marketplace. We can launch our product with a success story write-up from a customer that we worked with during beta. If we have a success story for the sales team where we talk about a delighted customer doing this, we're going to break down that barrier. If we are proactive with the marketing director and say, hey, last year you introduced 2 products. The red one seemed to really catch on quickly and the blue one went nowhere. I'm the product manager for something that's going to ship next year. Can you tell me all of the reasons why the red successful product was a successful marketing and sales product? And they're going to say, well, we did a webinar and we did a success story and we did sales training and we changed the incentive structure. And when they tell you all of those things, write them down and then insist that they happen to your product too. Now, the marketing team is going to say, why are we doing all of these energies for Ken's product? But as a product manager, you can make this happen. You can go to them and say, hey, how many email blasts are we going to do? Hey, I want to sign up to do 2 webinars. I want to do a success story 30 days into this particular situation. So I want to do a sales training. Of all the reasons why product managers fail, the area that I think we can be most influential to is actually poor marketing, poor go-to-market of this particular situation. So I think all of us can make a huge difference in this particular place. Okay, that's it. I meet with key marketing people and I say, hey, what was the formula for last year's success? I really do. And they just are very happy to tell me. And when they tell me, I just write them down and then I just hold them to it. It's a great success story to see what's happened here. Kate, I'm gonna drink some water and you're gonna do a poll.
Please do, yes. All right, let me open up the second poll and I'm gonna let you guys vote on this. This is really asking what you've seen in your experience. So let me see if I can launch it here. Oh, I got it. Stop that one. All right, now we can launch this one. So yeah, which of these 7 reasons that Ken just went through have you seen in your experience? Yeah, and so while you guys are answering that, Ken, we did have a couple of questions come through during this discussion, during these points, and I have a one that I think is very relatable to a lot of us. Someone is taking a new position as a PM, and they are tasked with leading a product that has been abandoned prior for the last 6 months or so. The development has been planned for, since December. Nothing's really worked on it. They're kind of anticipating a messy backlog, and they're nervous about falling into these pitfalls. So if you were in that position, one of our colleagues calls this being parachuted in. If you're getting parachuted in on a project or a product, what would you do to assess the situation and hopefully not fall down a pitfall that you've discussed?
Yeah, so that's a touchy situation, and frankly, the way I've gotten onto most of my projects as a product manager is I didn't start it at the cradle level. I got parachuted in at some particular point. So I can totally relate to this question. I think it's really smart. One of the things that I do is I try to spend 50% of my time over the first 2 or 3 weeks dealing with the problem side of this. The engineers are going to pull me into meetings where we're going to talk about the solution and ask me questions about whether it goes into the cloud or whether it goes into a mobile app. They're going to ask me a million questions about the solution. But the one way that I try to make a difference, the one way that I try to be valuable to my company is to not just simply go along with the flow at that particular point. I try to do that. What problems is this solving, and what is the persona that it is solving for? And if I present this information to the marketing and sales team and I says, hey, this is the value and these are the target customers we're going from, I have a conversation with the marketing and the sales team, and they will agree with me that this is a problem to solve for these customers, or they'll explain to me how we're going to reach those types of customers and whether or not it's practical to do that. So as I parachute in, I go to the meetings and I get pulled into the solution section, but I also do try to articulate who's this for and what problem does this solve that customers are going to want to pay us money for. Those are the first 2 things that I do. And I find that if I go to my boss, or if I go to the boss's boss, or if I go to an executive at the company, and I'm talking about the who it's for and the problem that it solves, that they'll give me a couple of minutes before they'll say, "Tell me about the solution." And so I'm a huge fan of that. Hey, let's talk to customers. The role of product management is to represent the needs of the customers inside the building. And so I'm a huge fan of that. And I think that that's important for us to do. And it's hard when you get pulled into a project. There's all those meetings to go to. There's all those fires to fight. But I try to hold back 25, 30% of my time in order to do persona development and to articulate the problem and then to share that information with other people on the team. Kate, have you done it? Have you done it?
Yeah, that was great. And I was going to add too that it's you do have that that nice little shiny window of being the newbie where you get to ask the silly questions, and whether that's silly or not, you could kind of say, tell me again how this is, who is this for, and what is the problem? What is the pain? Right. Yeah. You can kind of get to kind of that underlying without coming across as sort of, accusatory. So use that newbie to your status, to your advantage for sure, and ask those questions right up front. I think that's very valuable and hopefully can avoid some pitfalls. All right, so let me go ahead and
look at the answer here, Kate.
I know, I'm going to end it and show it to everyone. Here we go. Boom. Look, as we were talking, what do you think, Ken?
I think that's fantastic. Do people see the poll? The 49% of the people came back and said that the problem doesn't solve the right problem. Yeah, the product doesn't solve the right problem. Half of you in this particular situations can relate to a failed product from the point that it doesn't do this. This is stuff product managers can do. It's not popular, but imagine being able to potentially deal with that particular issue in order to be able to articulate that earlier. Imagine the money and energy that you can resolve. Fantastic. Hey, I want to get through a couple of pitfalls, how to avoid these things, and then get to the Q&A. Kate, if that's okay, I'm going to continue on this. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Number one, empathize with your customers. As a product manager, I don't need another person at another meeting where they're talking about what features should be in the product. That's something that we kind of need to do. It's just kind of the filler, but I do need product managers on my team that empathize with customers, that talk to customers, that understand what the customer problems are, to see what's happened here. Feel all the things that they feel. Develop user personas for both the user and the buyer of the situation here. I ran into a client 6 weeks ago where the team was all only focused upon the user persona. It was a business-to-business client, and they felt that it was someone else's responsibility to deal with satisfying the buyer of the particular situation. It's just and we turned on the idea of doing a buyer persona, and we changed the priorities of the team, and the customer renewed for next year. So there was a huge story there. And when you empathize with your customers, we encourage you to do empathy interviews. If you have not done empathy interviews, look it up. Empathy interviews is your friend as a product manager. And you'll learn to do open-ended questions with your clients, and you'll begin to do this. Last thing is empathize with your customers, do a competitive analysis, do the internal truth teller competitive analysis. That's not necessarily the one you share with the sales team, but do a competitive analysis where you actually know what's happened here. Next way to avoid the problem is understand the problem. Understand the problem that you are solving for your particular customers. If you can't articulate the problem that you're trying to solve for your customers, I propose that you have a failed product in waiting. Don't think you know what the problem is, actually really know. Use data, use interviews, speak to 10 people. You'll do this. It's in our DNA to want to think of the solution. I remember that enthusiasm of being a product manager and going to meetings with engineers and how much I loved being involved in doing this, but I was never very influential. I was hugely influential with the development team when I embraced the problem side, though, when I brought the personas into the room, when I brought the customer problems, when the empathy interview results. My ability to influence went up. Focus on the persona and the problem, and when you do that, you'll inspire your team to build inspired solutions. You can actually make the team better. Next up is product manage the desired outcome, not just the product. This is subtle. We are labeled product managers, which means we're supposed to be responsible for the 1.4 version of the widget. But I propose that doing just the product management of the particular widget and then throwing it over the wall to the sales and the marketing team and to the rest of the company is not a formula for success. Expand the definition of product management so that we actually represent the vision of creating satisfactory outcomes for the situations. It's an output is ship the 1.5 version of the feature on time. That's an output. It's valuable to the company, but it's only full of potential success. It's not full of financial success. Selling 10,000 units of the 1.5 release is an outcome that involves great work by the product management team, by the engineering team, by the QA team, by the sales team, by the marketing team. The company gets behind outcomes. Be the product manager that is focused upon a beneficial outcome. Expand the definition of product management. Go to some meetings with some sales and some marketing people. Help them identify things that you can help them with that will make them better. Focus on outcomes as a product management a little bit more, and focus on outputs just a little bit late. Clearly, you need the output. Clearly, you need the release of software to talk about. But I would like the product management role to potentially not throw that particular feature over the fence. I want you to carry it through and make the outcome part of the goal here. Outcomes are realized potential. Outputs are unrealized potential. That's why I'm a huge fan of this. It's why one of the reasons we changed the focus of the course. We the basic course that the 280 group teaches as of now is outcome product management. Next up, things I say to product managers: be a lion, not a sheep. If the product that you're building is a vanity project that's on its way to not create value for the particular company, figure out a way to stand up in front of the right people at the right time and say the truth. Be a lion, don't be a sheep. I was a sheep with the Apple Basic Color Monitor. My biggest problem as a product manager is I just simply went with the flow. I did not stand up. I didn't do anything. I was too insecure, and I didn't make a difference. And the product went on to incredibly bad things for Apple. Understand the value that your product delivers. We're going to be wrapping up, and we're going to be going to the Q&A in just one particular second here. But I did want to make an offer to you. As you've attended the webinar today, we have a gift for you. The gift happens to be the very first release of the 280 Group Playbook. The 280 Group Playbook is a brand new product that we've developed, which is a cake recipe for doing product management. We are going to give you a taste of the playbook in the form of a playbook pack starter pack. And these are 3 templates, which Kate will tell you about in just one second here. And in this particular playbook pack, we have some context for you about what these particular templates mean. We have a template for you to write in. So that you can answer questions about how to do a persona exercise or how to potentially build a problem statement. And the third thing, the thing that makes this playbook pack a little bit different from a lot of templates that you've used before is that inside the playbook pack is an example of what great looks like. So we have actually done the exercise ourselves with students in our particular classes. We've looked at all of their work, and we've actually provided you with a sample of what great looks like. So you'll see in our template that would work out here. Kate, would you just mention a little bit more about what's inside the starter pack, please?
Absolutely. Yes. So we are very excited to share this with you guys. Like Ken said, this is really a taste of our full product playbook. So the 3 templates that we have included in this is the outcome and strategy, a guided discussion. So this is sort of the potential for you all to talk with either if you are a product leader with some of your team, or if you're a product manager or on the product team itself, to speak with your manager and talk about what are those outcomes that we are driving for, not necessarily, what widget we are shipping, but what are the outcomes we are driving for. And that way you can really orient yourself and figure out where you are in the process, especially getting parachuted in, as we say. So this would be a great tool for you who asked about, being a new PM in a project. This is a great way to kind of start that conversation with your new boss. The second template that we have included is the positioning statement. So the positioning statement, many of you guys might have written some or seen some, or maybe your products don't have a positioning statement and should. So this is a great template to kind of show you, like Ken again said, we do have a really, an example that goes throughout the playbook so you can see what good looks like, right? And this, again, make sure that we're solving the right problem for the right people. You can kind of get that theme going. And then lastly, the third template in the starter pack is the stakeholder alignment template. And many of you all in the chat have mentioned, oh, it's important managing up. It's important to, work with your engineering teams. And so this is where you can kind of, all right, let me get all the people that I work with down on a piece of paper and kind of outline where I want to make sure I touch base with them, how I want to inform them, how they can inform me, and we can work together instead of throwing things over fences at each other. So these are 3 really great templates. This is part of a larger playbook that goes really from start to finish, whether you're doing a full brand new 1.0 product or a 1.1 update, starting with the problem, starting with who you're solving the problem for, those 2 things. So it's a really exciting full package here. So that's what we've got. And I see our friend Cameron here has put it in the chat. So yes, you could go in and grab that starter pack for free. So
yeah, exactly. Just FYI, the 280 Group's playbook is not like the templates that you've used before, which are just simply forms that need to be filled out. We actually give you context about why this is important. We talk about where this is in the sequence and when it should be done as a product manager. And like I said, we give you an example of what great looks like. So really proud of this particular work. That would be great. Again, no obligation. These templates are free for you, and potentially keep an eye on the website, keep an eye on the LinkedIn channel, because we will be releasing more of these free playbook packs as time goes on.
Perfect. All right, let's get
Excellent.
into.
Are we going to do another survey, or should we go right to Q&A?
Up to you. Your call.
Let's go into Q&A.
Okay. All right. We do have a good number coming in. So I did, let's see, I've got one specifically about competitive analysis. I know you had mentioned that in your ways to avoid pitfalls. This is, kind of a very large topic, but as far as innovative or disruptors go, how would you suggest maybe taking a first step to competitive analysis if you are trying to launch something disruptive? Any suggestions?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great idea. The immediate thing comes to mind about a competitive analysis of a breakout product, a product that's new in the space, is I would do a competitive analysis about how people do the work today. Do they put this together themselves? Do they do it with Excel and a pencil? Do they do it with a cloud-based tool? Is that if you're an innovative product, then there's some process that you're replacing, and so I would do a competitive analysis there. Next up is competitive analysis usually boils back to me and to the idea that our product is more than the product. It's the go-to-market. It's the problems that we solve. So when I ask product managers on the team to write battle cards or to do competitive analysis, it's don't just evaluate product feature for feature, evaluate our perspective on the marketplace, evaluate the value that we bring to customers, take the marketing into account, take the product marketing into account, and potentially look to see what's happened here. Because it's possible that you have a competitor who is providing a product, but if they don't have a vision of the solution, if they don't have a vision of the customer, if they don't have situations, you need to talk to value. So the empathy interview will tell your customers the problems that they have, who they are, and how they want you to solve it for them. And I do a competitive analysis around that particular situations. If there's literally no competitors for you, then it's hard to do a competitive analysis because there's just no competitors out there. But usually there's a process, usually there's a form, usually there's an old version of a product, which isn't very good anymore, that you can do this on. But do your battle cards. Competitive analysis in the modern form is done with battle cards. Battle cards need to include your marketing, your go-to-market, the problems that you're solving. Be comprehensive about your battle cards. I would love to do a webinar on battle cards again.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I think this comes out the prototyping that Ken mentioned too. If it's a brand new thing, you're welcome, kind of start testing with the cheapest and fastest way you can to see if it does solve for whatever problem we believe exists for that persona. So that's a great thing to do as well. Yeah. All right. So let's go to the next one. So let's see, in your experience, what has failed startups? You mentioned you worked for a few
I
of
have
them.
failed startups in my history, absolutely.
Yes. So what if failed startups got wrong with PM versus mature companies with failed products? So what's the difference?
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some immediate stories that come to mind. One of which is that usually at a 10-person startup or a 100-person startup, the product manager of the company is really the CEO, the person who has the vision for what problem you're trying to solve and what's happening. At a 10-person, 50-person company is usually the person who's behind it. And so then a product manager comes in and they're competing with the CEO to be influential over the development team. Hard situation for a product manager to out-influence what's happening at the CEO level. But at some particular point, the CEO has to let go of being the product manager, and that is a level of maturity of a startup. Maybe it's 12 months in, maybe it's 18 months in, about the point where you actually need to stand up the strategic product management function at a company that was a startup, and making that transition from CEO is the product manager. To one of us being the particular product manager who's not the CEO is very dangerous. It's very hard. Generally speaking, a company that hires the first product manager and has that product manager compete with the CEO for being the expert on what the product is, usually it doesn't work out very great for the product manager. I always want to be the second product manager to go in, not the first one. But at a startup, the person who's closest to the heartbeat of the potential customers is usually the CEO, not the product manager, and that's a challenge. And making that transition happen when the CEO can let go of that function and let that function fall to product management, that's a key moment in being a product manager at a startup. Clearly, being a product manager at a larger enterprise is usually more of a hierarchy situation here. But as I develop my career as a product manager, the one piece of advice that I would give you is, as you're building up a team, is to have your product management organization deal with outcomes and have your product management team deal with problem statements, not with solutions.
Perfect. All right, I think we have time for one more, and this is favorite topic.
Is it going to be the Airbnb question? Is it going to be the Airbnb question?
No, it's not. It's actually not. This is a great one that we've talked a lot about. How do you know when it's time to let a product go? How do you structure the meetings to explore this? And maybe this is before it's launched. So if we can see the writing on the wall, what would you, as a new PM Ken at Apple, have done differently? When do we know?
So if I just go in and I tell the team that this product is dumb, it's just my opinion, right? My opinion, my gut's probably right, but it's just my opinion. So the two techniques that I do in order not to address this one as if my opinion works is the first thing that I do is I'll take it to 5 target customers and I'll say, hey, what's the value of this? I'll take it to 5 salespeople and I'll say, is this something you're going to be willing to sell? And so, each one of those things takes me an hour. So I'm talking about 10 hours of work. Yes, you're busy. Yes, you parachuted in. You have to do this. But if you can potentially speak to 10 salespeople on a Zoom call, one-on-one, five salespeople, 5 and the marketing person and a couple of customers, you can come back and you can start dealing with a person who's on the team. Maybe it's the head of development, maybe it's the head of product, maybe it is someone that you respect. And you need to start bringing the data to them saying, hey, I'm bored off on this. I get the vision, but let me tell you about some feedback that I've gotten from the constituents about what's happening here that is causing me to worry. So at that particular point, I'm having small, intimate meetings with people who I think will be open to looking at data and not opinion. And I want to potentially influence them and bring them on board with not my opinion, but with some field collected data. And that is one of the ways that I've derailed failed products in the past, is by recognizing that walking into the room and telling everybody this is a stupid idea doesn't work. But speaking to 5 customers, speaking to 2 salespeople, speaking to a marketing person, and being able to summarize that to a director or a vice president, and speaking from the heart and being influential wins every time.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's do the Airbnb question now that we've teased it.
Yeah. So let me cue this up. So I saw a post. I'm sure that
Okay.
there's a million things being talked about this one, but basically speaking, Airbnb says that they don't have product managers anymore. My first reaction to that was, wow, that's really bold. They must be a very advanced, agile company where they have where the development team is this close to the customer and everything's working really, really great. And I believe that there's some aspects of Airbnb where that's true. I believe that so much data flows back from the usage of the application that there are metrics that the team can look at in order to figure out what's going on here. But I did see a second post from the CEO of Airbnb and said that they didn't actually fire all the product managers at Airbnb. What they did is they redefined them into a role called product marketing managers. And they took them away from the day-to-day development stuff and they put them more towards a customer-facing position. And as a matter of fact, the CEO mentioned that Apple had done this in the 90s also. And Apple did do that. Apple in the 90s, under a VP of product management called Randy Patat, they stopped being a product management function for a couple of years at Apple. Half the product management team wanted to be closer to the engineering organization, so they became pseudo product owners. They were called project managers at Apple. And the other half of us actually became product marketing managers. And we were not going to daily engineering meetings. We were going to meetings about what the customers wanted to buy. And the Airbnb person specifically quoted back that the product management function was more needed in the product marketing role than it was in the product manager role, because data was flowing in so well and they understood the customer and the teams were very agile. And I support that idea. I think that's fine. I think not a lot of companies are like Airbnb, where they're sitting on that much data. They are that close to what the needs of the particular customers are, that have that much of an agile organization. I would not tell everybody that is the role to do this, but maybe there is a point where you have such an organization, such a model of data flowing back here, such a focus upon the metrics that we need to deal with, that maybe the role of product management should move away from the development organization and move a little bit closer to understanding the sales and marketing role. See what's happening. Very interesting story on that one. And I look forward to watching that over time. Do not try to be Steve Jobs. Only Steve could be Steve's. And do not necessarily take this point of view of Airbnb doesn't have product managers. It means my company doesn't either. There's a very unique set of circumstances at Airbnb about how they're data focused, how they're organized, and how they're agile that I think makes it rather interesting.
Absolutely. All right. So Ken, if you could move one more slide as folks are as we're wrapping up, there are 2 trainings upcoming. So please check these out. You can enroll at 280group.com. We will talk about some more failed products in those and learn from them. And we've got some exceptional consultants and trainers here. So check it out. We've got one live online version and we have an in-person one in Wisconsin. So if you are looking to travel to Wisconsin in August, it's for you. So thank you all very, very much. We will be sending out some more information as a follow-up. And thank you, Ken, for some wonderful information here. I hope you all learned a little something to take with you and that you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday or whatever time it is.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Kate.
much.
And thanks for everybody in the room. Those were great questions. And thanks for the
Absolutely.
opportunity to speak to you as part of our community. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks all. Have a good one.